This is my 4-3 book analysis video presentation guide. Winston is a middle-aged man who lives in a society where the government controls everything. They even control what you think. Winston buys a journal which is forbidden, and he begins to write in the journal everything he thinks is wrong with the government. When Winston purchased the journal, his life turned upside down. He met a woman named Julia who was fairly younger than him. She too was against the party. Winston and Julia both did not want to live in this controlling society and wanted to join a rebellion. Now they must find out if they are able to start a rebellion against their party. I was overall disappointed in the ending of the book because I would have rather seen Winston being a part of the rebellion for longer than to just crumble and be a part of the party again. I do believe that this book sheds a lot of light to the world about what life could possibly be like if one person or group gained too much power. It is kind of scary to think that this could be a possibility, but in a more modern sense, like having chips in people. I would have liked a different ending, but I think Orwell is trying to portray a more realistic ending. This specific quote is repeated many times throughout the book. Orwell takes two antonyms and wants people to see them as synonyms. The government in the book says the only way to have peace is to constantly be at war. As for freedom is slavery, these people will never get their freedom unless they rebel, which will just lead to slavery because they will inevitably get caught. Finally, ignorance is strength refers to the fact that man's ignorance blinded them and let the party gain more strength. The biggest appeal of this book to me was the fact that Orwell tries to depict what might happen in the future. Since he wrote the book in 1948, I was really interested in seeing what things were accurate today. After reading the book, I feel like I somewhat found my answer. I think the most accurate thing he predicted was the telescreens. Those could be related to Alexas. People have basically brought the government into their homes with these Alexas. I was mainly disappointed in the ending of the book. I really was wanting a win for Winston. I wanted to see him start a rebellion. I think the reason that didn't happen was because Orwell wanted to show the reality of someone gaining too much power. As for Winston and Julia's relationship, I didn't want them to betray each other. I think the fact that they did betray each other shows that they never learned the power of true love, which is exactly what the government wanted. Some parts of the book could be seen as inappropriate. There were times where Julia and Winston would have sex. What majorly disturbed me was the fact that Julia and Winston were okay with pouring acid on a child's face. This was when Julia and him were being inducted into the rebellion on pages 172 to 173. I was surprised that so much violence was just normalized in this society. I agree with this quote has come back to tell us a tale of mass media, data mining, and their harrowing consequences. First of all, this book could not be more relevant now. I believe that technology is being created faster and is more advanced than most people could have thought. If these new technological creations got into the wrong hands at some point in the future, who is to say that some of these far-fetched ideas that Orwell brings to mind won't be accurate someday? I have to disagree with the statement that Winston is our hero, because really, in the end, Winston went against everything that he stood for. In reality, Winston's character development went full circle, from being secretly against the party by writing in his journal to eventually joining the Brotherhood with Julia to inevitably going back to loving Big Brother. That is why I don't think Winston is our hero, and instead he represents how the government is able to control the minds of those who seem to hate them the most, and I find that scary. I agree with the statement that Orwell used his references to Hitler Youth as evidence, so that while people would read his book, they would realize that some of his ideas have already happened. I think that this is important today with children and technology. Children through adults are addicted to their phones, tablets, and computers. These devices could easily be accessed with the government, which really just gives them more control. I agree with what the author is saying about these events being very realistic. With everything advancing so quickly, you never know what might happen in the future. I believe that the quote, "It is a gruesome, saddening portrait of humanity with its pitfalls garishly highlighted," is very true. I think that sometimes there are people who are just insane and who are very power hungry. We have already seen this in the past with Adolf Hitler, who was a dictator with a severe psychotic view on the world. And we can even see it today with dictator Kim Jong-un, and I'm sure there are many more people with these distorted views. If a big amount of power got into the wrong hands, there could very well be a similar society to the book 1984. In conclusion, I would recommend this book to any interested reader. Orwell created a society in which human beings have no love for each other and only love for their government. The book can be used to show what could possibly happen in the future if we get the wrong person or people into power. The book exemplifies the lengths that some people will go for power. It also shows how easy it was for the past to be erased. Overall, I found this book to be a very unique perspective into our future.